Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited for this episode of Driving with Dave. I have the creator of the Rogue Island Comedy Festival and very funny stand-up comedian Doug Key. How are you?
Thank you. One day those titles will be reversed, and but until then, I'll take it in that sequence.
I was gonna lead with new father.
Yeah, that's actually taken up the majority of my life. So that's I'm most proud of that title, I think.
I don't know how you get anything done. I see you with the kid,
Yeah.
and you seem, and you're so productive. So you run this comedy festival, which I want to talk about.
Yeah.
But tell me about like dad life. And was it natural? Did it, you know what I mean? Like, how did it all progress?
It was natural because I didn't have that upbringing, so it was like I think I was overdue for like a normal nuclear family life. You know what I mean?
If I could take anyone I know that has more similar experiences to me than anyone else, I think it's you, because as far as like experiments go, we went to the same high school, basically.
Yeah.
Similar upbringing. We both have parent issues, daddy. We got it all.
Got it all.
Good, nice hair. We're both super jacked,
Yeah. Peak physical condition, very successful.
So, but it's like, and then they just give you a kid, and they don't really tell you much. And I'm under the impression that our generation rocks it because our parents thought they knew everything, and I think our generation doesn't think we know anything.
Oh, exactly.
And then so we can Google like the actual way to put a kid to sleep, not just let him cry all night.
Yeah, well, a lot of my parenting skills. He's 8 months old. I feel like, you know what's funny is like I'm working on a bit about this, but it's like everyone is so nervous about becoming a parent before you're a parent. You don't know, you don't have any experience. You're texting friends who are parents, hey, how do you do this? Like, what am I supposed to expect? But the flip of a switch that occurs the moment your child is born is night and day. Like, the bit is basically like you're nervous, and then as soon as the child's born, one person's like, so how much does the baby weigh? And you're like, don't tell me how to raise my child. You're like, every kid's different. So that's what it is.
Yeah, there is a defensiveness because, there's a lot of projections that happen from, like we're doing this parenting thing where we have a little potty for the baby, and it's apparently really natural to put your baby on a little potty.
Oh, okay.
And yet we've kind of in the 50s, the big diaper industry came in and made us wrap them up. But like, babies don't want to pee into a diaper. They want to pee. They want to,
they want to pee all over my chest.
Yeah.
Clothes.
So I've got people looking at me like I'm doing the wrong thing when we're just trying to go back to the natural thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like you just have to sort of, I guess, like, I don't know, not be defensive and like be like, all right, I'm just gonna try to raise my kid the way I think is right, and you can go do whatever you want to do for your kid.
Yeah, I'm fully turning into the person that's just like, I have to bite my tongue because everything that you do is your child. It doesn't. You could like suggest a piece of equipment or something. Hey, this made my life easier. But like, when it comes to like, oh, sleep train, you got to sleep train at this age. It's like, well, we haven't gotten that far yet. Or
yeah, and it's like, says who? Like, everything we learned about health growing up was wrong.
Yeah.
Everything, the food pyramid was upside down. Our parents, I don't know if my mom let me cry myself to sleep. Who knows where I got my like anxious attachment issues from? But
yeah.
I would like to make it so that my kid doesn't cry for the wrong, I want him to be emotional, but I don't want him to be like, like needy like I was. 'Cause I'm a super needy person. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah,
I take everything as like an offense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you got a show tonight at Bleacher Bar. How come I'm not going to the like?
I hear you.
You know what I mean? Like I just like everything.
Well, they say you're not supposed to just like you want to hug your child because it's the most comforting feeling in the world, and that's true. It's like there's no better feeling. But if you're hugging them for the wrong reasons, if you're hugging them because you're sad, you're projecting that sadness on them, and it's like you can't use your child as this like. Thunder buddy to like make you feel better. Like you have to only kind of like, you want to coddle them when it's appropriate, if they like, if they really hurt themselves. But if it's just like they hit their head like lightly and they're kind of like, you don't want to be like,
don't make it exactly.
Yeah.
Don't make it about them. Oh, funny. Now, so how is your relationship changed with the baby? Like, obviously the baby is like such a needy being.
Yeah.
Do you like what's that been like?
My relationship with the baby. Hold on, sorry. Ashley's FaceTiming me real quick. I have no idea why she's doing that.
You can take it if you need to. We can cut or
no. That's all right. Hold on, wait. No.
He's like, speaking of needing something.
Yeah. No, it's honestly he's in an 8-month sleep regression right now where it's like he's developing object permanence. So as soon as we leave, he's like, "What? Wait, where?"
Oh, he's starting to realize.
He's like, "Where did they just go?" And that's been tough because it's like every couple hours he'll wake up and like sense the absence of us.
And he knows when you have to like leave for work.
Yeah, I mean, even when I come home, I see him, he's like all excited. I'll go and like put my lunchbox down or whatever, and he'll start crying. So I don't know if that's healthy attachment, but like, it's like the Mary Ainsworth situation, that study where they like, bring the stranger into the room while they're doing an activity, and then the parent leaves the child alone with the stranger. So the healthy attachment is the child alone with the stranger, kind of like looking for the mom or like looking for the parent, but not freaking out.
Right.
So like being aware that maybe the parent is nearby, but not like completely becoming dysregulated.
Now, could you imagine our dads or moms having this conversation in the 80s? I just couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine that generation even pondering this.
I don't know how I'm alive. I genuinely, as a parent now, I look back and I think about what my mother's issues were growing up, and like, she was not as, troubled as she is now. But I think that's like the boomer generation is like a lot of them came up with, and it was easier. It was an easier time. Things were cheaper. There wasn't as much stress.
I'm writing so many jokes about my like stepdad and like boomers. Yeah. And a lot of my jokes about my stepdad are actually about my mom, but I think she's too defensive. So I'm kind of pushing the joke onto him, Because for the bit, it doesn't really matter. But what I am noticing, because we have boomers in the audience, is how defensive they get. And I'm like, look, you're worth 10 times as much money as us, when we were your age. Yeah. Like you've got it all. You bought your homes. We've spent more on student loan interest than they did on their home.
Yeah.
Like, figure it out. We're the ones trying to survive here. This
right.
Millennials.
But they still want stuff from us.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like maybe not all boomer parents, but like my mom's like, hey, I need help with this. It's like, I have a child now. You are not my like fuck up older daughter that I need to take care of.
I'm trying to learn people pleasing, and they say I just like read about this today, that they say people pleasing is about yourself, and it's about not wanting to confront the emotions, about setting a boundary. And we had a lady that just random lady we met, and we were talking to her, and she was like, can I touch your baby's toes? And I just said no, and it was so hard to do, but Tasha was next to me, and I knew if I said yes, she would have killed me. Yeah. Why are you gonna let some stranger touch our baby's toes? But like, people want to touch your baby's toes, and you have to learn to be like, you gotta back away. I don't know you. Like, that's a weird thing to ask.
My girlfriend's family, they're all Portuguese, like full-blooded Portuguese.
Yeah.
Very family involved, and it's great. They're an amazing support system for us, like her immediate family. But there's like all these distant aunts and titias and titatos and potato. I don't know what they are. I'm still learning the language.
There's a lot of charades floating around the Portuguese.
Exactly, vavuzis and vavazis and vavu. And but anyway, like we went to a funeral, and George, my son, he just met one of like the great aunts or whatever, and she just took him. I've never met this woman. She took him right out of my hands and was kissing him, and the jewelry's clanking around his face, and he's like, "Who is this lady?" And I just look at my girlfriend and her family. They're dying laughing.
Perfume.
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, this woman just grabbed my son, and he was only a couple months old at that time, but yeah, it is like you have to. We were very protective, and similar to to your lady, is like that hypochondriaism is like. Is that a word, hypochondriacism?
Sure.
I don't know. But now you get to, we were so nervous about him bonking his head and like but now it's like, all right, every once in a while he'll bump his head or like fall back on the carpet, and you have to do that to learn. You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, I think we're much more accepting of a bonk on the head, but there's this post-pandemic, I mean, it's probably PTSD really, about not messing our baby up before he's fully developed. But I mean, like, so anyway, it's about like just trying your best, right? But you can't lose your mind if like, you walked by someone sneezing. You just got to try.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone, like, if someone's got a bunch of kids, they're like, yeah, whatever, let them all get the cold. And it's like, well, we're like, okay, well, hold on. We'd rather not, because we're traveling through the airports.
Well, it's funny you say that, because like like getting the colds, because I was so nervous about him. I'm like, we got to sanitize all these toys. Something will fall on the ground. I'm like, we got to put it in the dishwasher now. Now it's like, all right, he's putting this in his mouth. He's taking the remote, putting it in his mouth. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, all right, if putting his mouth on the TV remote gets him like sick, then maybe he needs that.
You're also in the clear at not in the clear, but in 8 months, you're like in a good place.
You're not as vulnerable.
You know, we both lived in New York City. We're immune to everything. You know, we've touched the subway railings and like.
Well, I have a whole bit about seeing a woman drop her baby's pacifier, or the baby's pacifier popped out of the mouth and landed on the subway floor, and the mom picked it up and just put it in her mouth and gave it back to the baby.
Absolutely.
And it's like, and I posted that clip, and a lot of people are commenting on it like, well, at least that baby's, you know, going to be immune to this, or like, that's exactly what I would have done.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow. Okay.
I heard that. I've learned all these things about breastfeeding in that if Tasha is exposed to a disease, she'll build up antibodies and give them to our baby through the breast milk. Mm-hmm. That's just, it's incredible. It's incredible like how like far along like humanity is that we don't really even know about, like things like that, about how much they're you know, like the antibodies he's getting, or if his saliva detects that he's deficient in something, it'll boost up her to create something else. It's like it's just incredible. Yeah, no, that's, I feel like my whole act is on this pod now, but that's another bit I'm working on, is like, it is incredible that like the mother can detect the deficiency, and then the bit is like, but what if I'm also nursing as well? Yeah, what can I mean?
Yeah, and then her body starts producing shit that I need, like, you know, Zoloft starts cranking out of there or something like that, or like less credit card debt.
We could use a little Zoloft.
I know.
That would help us out with you know, dealing with our, you know, parents sneezing on the kid.
Yeah.
Because we're on day 7 of a week-long trip, and this was our first time getting out, and this is the baby's first time leaving Nashville. Yeah. Which is like, you know, you know, it's been interesting, but
you drove or a plane?
We flew. Yeah. We're like so close. The flights are easy. So now that we're closer, and for those in the audience, so Doug, you lived in my Harlem pad when I moved to the West Coast.
Yeah, and it was only supposed to be temporary. Remember that?
I know.
You were flying to California for like, I think it was a couple months.
It's like, dude, I didn't know what I was doing, and honestly, the only good that came out of it was Tasha and I started dating. Really.
Yeah, I remember it was like, January 2014. You were like, it was winter. You were like, I'm going to LA, and your roommate was also going to LA. So you guys each got a friend to move in. So Nina, the girl who moved in, we both moved in at the same time, and it was amazing. And then you were like, I'm not coming back, and I'm like, great, I love it here. So
it worked out.
I was there for 5 years, and then I moved to the Bronx and then Brooklyn.
And was there a fear of leaving New York? Because I had a fear of leaving LA when it comes to stand-up. You know, you're kind of like...
Yeah, I mean, I left New York around the pandemic just so I could finish grad school, because I'm like, I don't know if comedy's ever going to... Like, that's when, you know, the height of the pandemic is when you're like, are we ever going to go back to normal? And, you know, you look back now and you're like, all right, well, that was a crazy thought, but you just didn't know.
You didn't know.
So I was like, I'm going to finish my degree. So I moved out of the city for like a year, and then I ended up moving back. And then we obviously had a kid and wanted to be closer to family, so we moved back to New England. But yeah, like I don't feel as productive living, because the city, like, it definitely lights a fire under your ass with how expensive everything is. It's like, I have to succeed.
Right.
You know? But,
and you rise up to that energy level.
Yeah, but man, I tell you what, you know, I'm sure the audience doesn't really care too much about like inside baseball industry stuff, but like, you don't need to live in a big city anymore. Like, I'm sure that's why you moved.
Well, I was banking on that, but there's still, so I want to talk about that, but I want to get into, you're like one of the most self-actualizing comedians I know. You've created comedy shows since I've been in comedy. Yeah. And I want to ask you about that, because I've been talking a lot about what is good for content creation, comedy, and pretty much anything in the arts, is giving something to somebody else. When you can give to the industry, you get back tenfold. You've given so much stage time to so many people, including myself. I have to remind Tasha this. I go, God, you have to remember, like, you have provided me with my best comedy festival credits and stage time and all these other things.
Well, that's good to know. And
so thank you for that.
Yeah, well, hey, no problem. I mean, it birthed from a place of like, I wanted to create stage time for myself because there was limited opportunities, especially in Rhode Island. It's such a small scene. And I just noticed there was a market for it, like in, you know, where we grew up.
So you're doing these like monthly Wasted Talent shows?
Yeah, monthly show, and that turned into the festival because the monthly show was selling out every month. So I was like,
tell me how you got into the festival world, because like you said, so you're seeing that there's an audience in Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah, small three town island. It's a vacation destination.
Everyone comes here and spends all their money on stupid cover bands. Like there's definitely like a demand. Yeah,
it's not like a metropolitan city where it's just like a lot of foot traffic. There is a lot of foot traffic, but it's not. People aren't coming to Newport for comedy. They're coming for going on boats and going to the beach and going to the restaurants and bars. But there is a local towny scene that's like avoids the downtown like the plague. So I started it just for them, and then I started putting our event on like local event calendars, and then like tourists would come into town and Google what to do in Newport and end up coming to my show. So it would sell out all the time. But yeah, that's where I put all my eggs in that basket, was like producing shows, because like I didn't have a podcast, I didn't create content that way. So I just figured like if I can make some money by selling some tickets, like, and create stage time for myself and my friends, that would be like the most ideal scenario.
Guide me back to where you live.
Oh yeah.
If you know, or did I get you lost too? I just was doing laps and I don't know where I am, but
no, it's okay.
Because I didn't want to get too far away while I'm talking.
We're probably still close. We're only 5 minutes away.
Starting route to home.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll turn that down.
Oh, sweet. So people don't realize we're doing this live. We're on the roads here. So yeah, and your festival still, I mean, everyone who does it says it's one of the best run. And for those that don't know, like a festival is like a celebration of stand-up. So there's multiple shows on the same nights. There's comedy hangs.
I will say, though, that a lot of festivals are like more competition-based. We call them contestables, where it's like it doesn't create the best atmosphere for stand-up because, people are sizing each other up and they're nervous and they're in their own heads. They're not really like, they're not networking or having fun. They're like, they're going over their set list and
like the San Francisco one.
Yeah, some are good. Some you can like win and like get industry recognition and like maybe.
But in the end, it's like, who cares, right? Who's the funniest and it's so subjective and it's so dependent on that night.
Yeah, and I just wanted Rogue Island to be a celebration of stand-up, exactly like you said, and it's also a nice place to visit if you've never been to New England.
And you started doing them twice a year now.
Yeah, after the pandemic, I don't know if you remember, but like when everything opened at full capacity, it was like May, it was Memorial Day weekend 2021. People were going stir crazy from being in their house for so long, or following all these rules at least, that all the capacity restrictions were lifted on that holiday weekend, which is already a busy weekend in Newport. So I'm like, we'd be missing an opportunity to just duplicate the same formula that we have in October, which is the original festival, and do it again in May. So since that Spring Fest, that first one, we just decided, let's just do this semi-annually every year.
And how is this? So how is the spring? Did it
It's been great.
Off?
We actually, the spring one has been bigger, so we actually extended an extra day. We do a couple more shows. The Fall Fest is the original one, which is coming up, which you're going to be in Columbus Day weekend, but that's kind of like the last hurrah for people going, it's the end of the summer, but it's the start of fall.
It's one of my favorite weekends.
It's great. I love it. I personally, I love the Fall Fest better. You
can get some parking in town.
All the pumpkin spice shit isn't, there's fun fall activities to do while you're in town. And you're not fighting, all the traffic and shit.
But this festival, I mean, if it wasn't, now you're obviously, like I said, super funny, and you've started touring, but you've been opening for like Mark Norman, and you've been like rubbing elbows with some like of the best comics in the world. I think it's like incredible.
No, I'm
the
definitely
kind of growth you've had the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to kind of sticking with your friends. Like I've been opening for Mark for almost 10 years, and
which was crazy because he was opening for Amy Schumer, and that was like sort of his big thing,
right?
Like his big foot in the door. He was obviously very funny and hardworking, but like he was opening for someone where they could jump on. They were literally jet setting around doing shows, and she was one of the biggest comedians at the time.
Yeah, no, he definitely got a little bit of a leg up doing that, and we met at the Boston Comedy Festival, speaking of competitions, in 2013, and we just became friends there. And I moved to New York, and he started headlining clubs, three show weekends, one Friday, 2 Saturday, and his shows were like sparsely attended. He wasn't selling out everywhere yet. And then I just started slowly seeing like the the audience builds, you know, from doing all the pods. You know, he'll say himself he has trouble saying no to things. He was doing everybody's podcasts, everybody's shows. So he was
doing open mics. He'd like headline and then do an open mic.
He was slowly like, you know, Schumer gave him a little bit of a boost, but he was like chipping away, like garnering all these fans like one by one until he started getting, you know, recognition from bigger, you know, podcast hosts and other comics. So, yeah.
So do you think, I mean, what did you learn from opening for him? Was it, you know, from his technical side? His
fans are comedy fans. Like, you can get away with anything, but you have to be writing new stuff because, like, you know, a lot of his fans come back year after year to see him. And, you know, Mark's one of these guys, he's always working on new stuff, and he always wants to see you working on new stuff. So, like, I write the best when I'm, like, on the road with him because I'm like, oh, shit, I got to, like, you know, I don't want to be doing the same act for, like, I mean, obviously you have your hits you have to play.
How would he say, like, how would he have you work in new stuff?
Well, it kind of just, like, we'll be in the car and he'll just be like, all right, so what do you got? What do you got? Let's go over it. Like, what do you got? Let's bounce some bits. And it's good. It's a great exercise because, like, you might go out there and fall flat on your face with a new bit, but one might hit, and then you start tweaking it in the green room. And over the course of a weekend.
The life that can come from a new premise.
Oh, the honeymoon phase that you feel after a new joke lands is like, you know, it's like the birth of your child.
That's the dopamine of, like, trying a new dessert or having sex with a new person. It's like, it's what it is.
Yeah.
You get dopamine from new things.
Yeah.
And the belief that something new might come from just a simple new idea you had.
It's crazy, man. Then you start doing it over and over again, and the audience, they're like dogs. They can smell when you've, like, done it before.
But that's so this is what I've learned. That's dopamine goes away. Like, if you've had so many brownies, you know what the taste of the brownie is going to be.
Yeah.
And it still might taste good, but not the third.
And then everyone's going to look at you eat that brownie and go like, do you like it or not? Or are you excited about that brownie?
And then the crazy, I think they're psychopaths, the comedians that can pretend like they enjoy the brownie every time. But they exist. Those ones that they're like kind of like laugh or chuckle at their own. It's like, you don't find that funny. You've done that 900 days in a row. But some of them are good. LA was good with that. Where, like, the comics that could just fake it. But I feel like Mark and I feel like the New Yorkers are kind of less, you know, they're kind of the type that you almost know when you're being fraudulent if you've kind of like but like you said, sometimes you play the hits, you know what works, and then you find a way to work new things in. Like, what do you do for, like, set list development? Because that seems to be my biggest struggle, is having the board where it's all out there.
I am so guilty of not doing that more than I should, but when I did my special, I full out did the index card thing and put them up on the wall and started tweaking it and moving it around like a mosaic puzzle.
Right.
You know, and that was so helpful. And the fact that I don't do that constantly, my only recommendation to comics, like new comics, when they're trying to build like a longer set is to do that. I'm like, get index cards, put the name of the joke in the middle, and then put your opening line on the top and your closing line at the bottom, because those are going to be the two segue points where you can, like, use those opening and closing lines to shoehorn it somewhere else if it fits, like a puzzle piece.
Interesting.
So, like, that's one thing that I should do more of. But you know,
isn't comedy's all about things we should do more?
Yeah, just have an ongoing wall. Just put it up there, leave it there, and every time you do a show, if you did something different, move it around.
I've got these slats in my garage that, like, you hang tools on. So they're like long, like, clapboards. And I just bought today, actually, an 8-pack of cork board, so that I'm gonna. That's like a long, skinny cork board, and I'm gonna do a timeline of all my bits, so that way I can move them around. Because I'm finding that one of my biggest issues is not knowing which joke I want to pull on next, and that little delay, when even if a set's going well, can slow everything down. So it's like not even about not being funny; it's about not being prepared. Almost.
Yeah. Do you edit your own stand-up clips? Like,
yeah.
So I've noticed that because I edit my own stand-up clips. I'm cutting out so much dead air. And when I say so much dead air, I'm like, it's like a second here, a second and a half here, and I'm condensing it all to be like under a minute. And I'm like, why aren't I writing and delivering like this?
Yeah.
Why aren't I delivering the bit as if it's going to be the clip?
That's why, and Mark does this a lot, but writing on Twitter as a joke, because you have to be very precise, and you can edit as you write on Twitter. But I think the human brain, when we write like long form, wants to write like blogs. Like, we want to write conversationally, but sometimes the bits are quicker than that, and maybe there's more, you know.
It's like, and also it depends what type of comic you are. Like, I feel fraudulent when I'm trying to deliver a one-liner, because I'm trying to find that balance of, like, all right, I want to get the joke out, but I don't want it to be just a one-liner. Like, if I'm doing a headlining set, I'm like, I'm not Mark. I don't have I don't have fucking 600 jokes to do, and you know
he's
what I mean?
on one end, and then a Bert Kreischer's on the other, where Mark might have 1,500 jokes in a 15-minute span, and then Bert might have one long story.
Yes.
But they both work for their personality type.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know, finding out what that is, and you know they always used to say it takes 10, 15 years to find your voice. I'm like, I finally get that.
Yeah.
Because you almost don't know what your voice is until other people kind of tell you.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like you kind of try everything else out until you settle on whatever's you.
I think finding your voice might just be that first aha moment of, you know, oh, I feel like this is what I want to do. But from that point, you're still going to evolve.
Yeah.
That voice is not going to be a continuous thing. You know, Carlin changed from, you know, at the end of his life, he was very like preachy, and it was like, okay,
he was like
good,
a suit and tie guy when he started and became hippie. No, you're absolutely right. Now, did you find any luck that came post baby? Because that's one thing they say. I think actually Bert Kreischer said this is like his career started taking off when he had kids because of the urgency. Yes,
the urgency. It lights a fire under your ass. It creates this sense of like, I have to succeed, not just for myself, but for the greater good of my family.
Because we could live off of someone's couch all day long, but when there's a human involved, it's like, all right, let's go sell an album or whatever.
And also going back to leaving New York and coming back up to where I started, because you have more connections where you're from, where you start comedy, I've gotten more headlining gigs than I ever have while I was living in New York for 10 years. You know what I mean? Because I was offered gigs, but I had to turn them down because maybe it wasn't logistically, you know, feasible to go from New York up to Boston for this, you know, brewery gig or whatever. But now that I'm like centrally located where I can do Connecticut and Rhode Island and Massachusetts, I'm filling up my calendar way more than I was like in New York. But it's two different ends of the coin, because you want the experience of living in the city, the connections, the networking, but you're spending a lot more money, you're not making as much money. But more lucrative things can come from that.
Oh, just by knowing people and just by, the act of meeting everybody. And my only hope was like, all right, I left LA, I don't know what I am, 13 years in or whatever, and I'm like, and did I get enough out of the cities to now propel myself? But Nashville's got a lot of stage time. But there's a lot of road gigs, but can I sell the tickets? I've done a few where like I've been to random cities like Seattle and in Scottsdale, and I think in each place I sold between 100 and 140 tickets just doing a one-nighter.
Great.
But I think that's great.
Did you do the email list thing?
I didn't collect much there.
If I can go back in time, I do. Like when we started sort of around the same time, people would come to open mics with like clipboards.
Yeah, I remember Tyler Fisher doing that.
Yes, Tyler's one of them, and
hard.
That paid dividends for him. But like, you see the guy with a clipboard, and you're like, what is this guy doing? And then it graduated to the iPad kid. Here, put your thing in the iPad. I'm like, damn, that person was ahead of their time.
I'm like a big Linktree guy now. Where
I just started that.
And I do have an email list, and I know I think this is interesting to people because I think we're moving to a world where everyone has to build equity in everything they do, and. It used to be, like when we were starting out, everyone wanted to get spots at comedy clubs, which is still good to do, but that wouldn't build your crowd. And then Andrew Schultz really ushered in the new wave, which is put all your content out there. If you have to put it out for free, do it, because you'll get more of an audience, and that's what you need long term. So you have geniuses like Joe List, who puts out a new hour, and he's so great, and he can just put it on YouTube, and he can do his thing, but he's like authentically him. And I think it's taught us a lot to be as innovative as possible. You with your festival, and now my question for you is: the festival is so much about giving to other comedians. Do you ever feel like you don't get enough out of it? Because you'll host some shows, you'll do a couple spots, but it's really selfless. Like you like, how many hours go into the producing side versus actually getting to enjoy it?
I enjoy it once the show kicks off and I could see everybody perform and laugh and whatever. But the stress of setting it up months in advance is it's a lot of work. And Katie and I, we've been doing it since day one. We started 2015. But it's not about me. It's about our community. It's about bringing stand-up to Newport. And I love hosting the shows. Like, when you're a new comic, it's weird because, like, when you host a show, it's like, oh, you're the low man on the totem pole. But when it's your thing that you're, like, I feel like a proud dad. I'm putting, like, all my children together.
Yeah, you're
like, I get to introduce, like, my kids to the, the audience. And it's like, I love hosting festival shows because it's just fun. You know what I mean? Like, I'll have my headliner friends host shows for the same reason. I'm like, look, this doesn't mean like you're a host.
Yeah.
I don't think of you as a host level.
Yeah.
You know, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but like,
no, I think
it's just like a fun thing. A festival is a celebration of comedy. It's not.
One year for your festival, I did the Mimosa show, and I think I hosted that. And yeah, look, no, you're right. It's the ego could be like, oh, why am I hosting? Because hosting can be a throwaway thing. Maybe not in a festival, but a lot of times it's like, all right, just get the comics up on stage. But in a lot, like I know in a lot of different, I think in some Canadian comedy clubs, the host is like the feature because it's like really important.
Oh yeah,
that they don't mess it up. So they'll give the host more time. Versus, like I've always taken pride and be like, yeah, I'll be the first one to go out there and I'll go do my thing. And it's it's whatever. But it's so interesting to hear about. I mean, you've done the festival for. Yeah. What's it been, 7-8 years now?
Well, no, this is actually the 10th one.
Oh, is it really that many?
Yeah. Well, we do it twice a year, but this is the 10th official Fall Fest. So we're trying to make it, we're trying to bring back a lot of the original Rhode Island guys. Are you at the highest level of submissions that you've ever gotten? Or like, was there a peak? Because we're like in a comedy boom. It was a peak. We had to raise the fee a little bit. And I know comics, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot of arguments about fees. But it's like, if it was free, there'd be thousands. And the quality would go. And you guys have multiple people judging. Do you do like blind rankings to? So it basically is. It has to be unanimous. There's 3 people that watch the tapes, and the selected ones have to be unanimous because we don't even have enough spots for everybody who is unanimous decisions. So we have a standby list of people who everybody liked, we just couldn't realistically fit. People don't realize, like, if you get denied from a festival, it doesn't mean you're not funny. It doesn't mean, like, there are a lot of unfunny comedians that submit, and some people are delusional. And one time this guy submitted a video of himself in his bed just reviewing weed. And like, it literally says, we're looking for a seasoned stand-up comedians. I wish I had that confidence. Yeah. Because I'll have like a good 4K video and I'm like, it sucks, whatever. And then you see someone with like their selfie shot of them on stage or whatever. And I'll say, you don't have to kill in the video. Like, your clip, you do not have to be murdering. Because like, sometimes a comic is murdering so hard in the video, but like, the level of laughter that's happening, and it doesn't really match like I'm not saying it's edited, but like the material, it could be like a bringer where it's like the whole crowd is theirs, right? And they might not. And they're not saying anything of any substance. We've accepted people where it's like a 10-person bar show, but like the jokes are just so good and tight. Oh, I think I would love a show where you tell after someone's opening premise if they're gonna have a great set or not, because I think the longer you do comedy, you realize, all right, this person's gonna be funny. You can tell within 30 seconds. You can tell right away what they're gonna have, and sometimes the best laughs come from the comedians who don't need the laughter. And I think my biggest struggle is, I wouldn't even say it's an anxiety, but it's like getting to that quick laugh. Yeah. It's like getting the ball rolling you want so bad. But sometimes, like I remember this one show I had in LA, and like I got on stage and just kind of forgot what I was going to talk about. And it wasn't like an important show. I had one of the best sets ever because I spent like the first few seconds just like not saying anything. Yeah. And it really just kind of drew the audience in. And maybe that wouldn't work on every show, but it was just a reminder to don't always just like try to ram it down their throats if they're not there. Yeah. Just like do you, and then they'll come to like whatever your act is, because every comic's got their own different voice, and the audience has to like recalibrate to what the comic's doing. Yeah. You're just casting. You're just kind of like moving the bait around the water a little bit. You're not like going out there and just dropping a dead fish in the water, because I feel like a lot of times comics go up with so much energy because they're trying to follow the guy they just killed. But that's not them. And that's especially if they'll like try to riff on, and the other comic's likable, and you try to riff, but you say something that's like, we're like, whoa, we're not on the side. As soon as you try to roast the guy that just murdered, you're that's bomb city. Yeah, it's like trying to catch a wave, but you're swimming in the wrong direction. That's not. It's all. But I mean, my audience always finds it interesting because there are a lot of like so many technical little things that kind of go into, like, there's no right way to do it, but there's so many different wrong ways that it's fun to dissect it all. But dude, I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited to be a part of the festival. Glad to have you back, man. Yeah, thanks, man. I'm so proud of you. Look at us, two dads sitting here with high shorts and leg hair that's out of control. We're just doing it, man. We'll have to have like a little daycare center the way things are going. So we'll do some. Next thing you know, we'll be headlining the old daycare center. So people do bumping mics with our baby Bjorn. Bumping baby Bjorn. We just bonk our babies' heads. Is there a website or something people can go to find out about the? Go to Rhode tickets are on sale now, October 9th to the 14th, Columbus Day weekend, all over Newport, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. It's a beautiful vacation destination, so come get a hotel. Dave's going to be on Friday.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I sold 2 tickets this morning. It didn't sell.
Awesome. I got to get you your promo code.
Yeah, I saw some audience. I was going to get breakfast, and the rare man who follows me. I got a lot of women who follow me. The rare dude was like, "Can I get a selfie?" And I was like, "Bro," I like pushed the wife out of the way. I'm like, I'm at the level of success that's super low enough that I will do whatever you want if you know me.
Oh yeah. I always say if somebody notices me, they're like, "Oh, hey, you're the comedian." They're like, "Can I take a picture with you?" I'm like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah. Do you really need this?
I'm like, you don't need this storage in your phone. Like, what is this?
Well, dude, thanks a lot. And on a personal level, they can follow you. Is it Doug Key Comedy?
Yeah, at Doug Key Comedy on all the website platforms.
Sweet. Appreciate it. And yeah. Thanks again, man.
I got spit up on my shirt.
I probably have someone. My baby just gnaws on me all day. This might be a new one. All right, Dad's life. Bye.
Later.
Thanks, man.